Hello and welcome to the channel, and in this video we're going to talk about arrays some more, but this time we're going to talk about how to process them and how to quickly get all the data that we need out of our array. So I'm going to go through, in previous video we kind of talked about how to initialize and set up and get ready to use an array, and this array would be kind of an array that you're not sure the values, you're just waiting for the user to put something in. And now this one here is for more of processing, for setting up an array where you know the values and you're going to predetermine or predefine them before using them in our program. So we'll go ahead and set up a scanner really quickly. We'll just import the java.util.scanner. Alright, and then we'll come down here and we'll create a scanner quick. And we got our scanner all set up. So let's actually go and kind of make a little application that will take advantage of this cache register array that we've set up, so that we can kind of look at the way of inputting our data inside of it, and then we'll also look at a way of processing the data out of it. Alright, so in this form we can delete all the rest of this stuff for now, we don't need it. So just from a previous video. So we have this array set up, and there's two ways. You can either have it with that there, or you can put those on this side here. Neither one's wrong, it doesn't matter, but the real way is right here, with the array being put after the actual data type name itself. So let's go in and we'll just say system.out.println. Oh, we need this to be a string. Alright, we'll just make a kind of like a checkout. So what we're going to actually do is we'll get the user to enter in, or the cashier in this form would be the user, I guess, to enter in all the prices of all of the items that were, say, brought to the cache. Alright, so we'll say, well, this is the checkout. It's kind of wonky because there's not enough, but that's nonetheless. So what we need to do now is we actually need to, have the user input everything. So we can put this inside of a for loop, and this is why arrays are very handy when working actually with for loops. For loops and arrays kind of go hand in hand. So we'll say int a is equal to 0, and I will say, well, a is less than, and there's a very easy way to keep the range within the actual array itself. And the array has this a couple pieces in that. If we were to take the array and push the period, the dot, you got all these methods that are available to the array, and the length is actually one that will return the length of the array. So it'll actually return the size that the array has available in it. And what we do, we can use that now inside of our actual condition here for the loop. So we could say cache underscore register, and then we can then say a plus plus, and we'll get that going. So now we have the range of our actual, oh, and we didn't actually, gotta say dot length, there we go, can't miss out on that one. So now that's actually taking in consideration this array and looking at the length, and it will then stop it based upon how long the array is, so we don't go outside the bounds of it. And I'll show you what happens when we go outside the bounds, but for now we can say, oh, putting every type that I don't want, a bracket that I don't want in there. I'll say enter cost, enter item cost, item price, item price, wording. Okay, so we can say enter item price. We can then get and use our scanner to store it inside of our cash register value. And we would use that with the index of it. And before, when we showed how to access a certain slot or a certain element inside of our array, we use this square brackets, and then we can put in, you know, the 0 or a 1, and that would refer to a certain position in the array. But for this, we're going to actually just stick the a variable that we created up here inside of our loop. We'll stick that in there because when we first come through, a is actually 0. So we come down into our program, we write this line, and a will now say cash register 0. And we can say equal to input dot next, and we'll get our next double. That's what we're looking to get. And so now each time it runs through the loop, this will actually go up with every time that they want to go through, right? So there's one thing that we should do here, because this is going to be straight 10 items when it comes out to it. So you'll have to put straight 10 items into it. So if we want to make that a little bit easier for the user, we can then maybe say at the end of this here, you can have, or at the beginning even say 0, press 0, or enter 0 to quit, maybe. Yeah, enter 0 to quit. All right, we'll do something like that. Or enter item price, right? So enter 0 to quit, enter item price. That's kind of what we want. It's kind of weird the way that that's put up, but so when they do enter 0, we can then actually know that there's no other items available to them, and we'll actually quit out of this. So we need to have an if statement in here, and we can then say if the cash register A, so we'll take the value that's actually in that was actually stored here inside of that value, and we'll say it's A at the time, because it was the same one that we were storing. So we'll just look inside of that value and see if it was equal to 0, and if it was, then we'll actually break out of this and we'll continue further down the line of our programming. Right, so now we can go with this and say system.out.print line, and we can then have something in here like final price, or processing. We'll just say processing. All right, something like that, just for now. We'll finish this off in a minute, but I just want to run through it just so that you show how it works and that you see it works relatively well. So we run this out. At first, we'll go through all 10 items, and then we can actually push 0 at one point to quit. So here we go, the checkout, enter 0 to quit, or enter item price. So go through $2.99. Again, we can go now $4.56. Right. And see, we're getting everything we want. It's kind of, you know, it's just continuously asking us enter more and more prices. And there we go. Now it's stuck at the end where it says processing. So now you can see that we actually started storing these values in there, and each one we went through and we just kept putting the next input from the user inside of our array. All right, so that's kind of a nice way to gather up lots of data, and it's very easy to store inside of a single variable, if you will, single array for the most part. It's not really a variable at this point anymore, it's more of an array. So now that we came down to our system processing situation, we can actually go through and let's finish off processing this. We can now, you know, dump it all out to the screen, or we can then use it to give them a final price and all that kind of stuff, right? So let's just create one more value here. We'll just call it result, just so we can add up everything inside of our double value here, or inside of our array, sorry. So we'll come in and we'll actually jump back into another for loop, and we're just going to use a normal loop here. I'll make a video on a different style of loop when we're doing this. You'll see it's actually a little nicer, but so we'll say int a is equal to, we can't use a, we already got a in the thing, so the scope won't let us. Say int b, well b is now equal to, or sorry, less than the cache register dot length. Okay, and I spelled that all weird. There we go, register dot length, and then we can say b plus plus, right? Now we can come down here and we can actually start using our array, and in our loop, you'll see these for loops kind of are perfect for using with an array. They're like super helpful, they're nice, they work very nicely. You'll probably use them quite often when it comes down to it. So, and actually they go hand in hand, so I mean you're going to use them all the time. So we'll take our result now and we'll say plus equals, and we will keep putting in each of the array elements. We'll now use b instead, and now b is going to act the same way. It's going to go 0 and then we'll come out 1, 2, 3, and it keeps dumping this value, adding it in with our shorthand operator here, and we've talked about that in other videos. If you're unsure, if you're coming from a different place and not sure what that is, then there's videos on shorthand operators, you can look that up. So now we're actually just grabbing this result and we're storing it inside of our value here. So if we come down, and we now can say system dot out dot print line, and we'd say your, oh, we need it in a string. I always want to do that for some reason. Your total, not even your total, we'll just say total. Not doing so hot with these. There we go. Total, and we'll put a $sign there just to kind of make it look like that, and then we'll just put result here. Okay, now this doesn't take into consideration taxes or any of that kind of stuff, and I'm not really worried about that. All I really worry about in this is showing you how to process them. Okay, and you can see this is kind of a nice way using this for loop to quickly get through an array where you would have to type it out by hand with 0 and then add it, and then 1 and then add it. Well, this array goes hand in hand and just kind of rips through it for you quickly. So we can run this now, and we actually now kind of completed our program. So here we go. We got $4. We hit enter. And I'm just putting in any random numbers. You can do the same if you're following along. And there we go. We processed it. Your total is 307.57. You can do your own math if you like. I do think that that's going to be very accurate to what it's going to be. So, but that is pretty much it. And we now used all of the actual values inside of our array here. So it processed it. We've now actually captured data into an array using our scanner. Then we've processed it and pushed it out and shown it as a total. That's pretty well it. That's how you're going to work with the array and the loop. You can use different loops like the while or the do while loop, but they don't come like pre-made with this system. So it's kind of a little bit more tricky to use. I mean, it's not impossible. You can just create your own index and then loop through and use the index integer as well, like you would normally. But this for loop is pretty much built kind of hand in hand with this, with an array. So at any point that you want to use that, then that's perfect. You'd probably want to go with the for loop for the most part. So that's pretty well the array in a nutshell as to actually initializing it and then also processing your data with it. So there is we're going to go into some sorting and different copying it over to another array, different things like that. That'll be for different videos. So that's it for this video. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up. If you have any comments or questions, I'm not sure what's going on, just put in the comment section below. If you have any ideas for future videos as well, just put them in there. And subscribe to the channel, and we'll catch you in the next video.